Welcome to the Spiritist Companion podcast. My name is Yuri Castro, and I'll be your companion on this journey where we study, reflect, and put Spiritist teachings into practice. If you enjoy what you hear, don't forget to subscribe, to follow, and most importantly, to send this podcast to someone else so we can spread the seeds of light together. My dear friends, today's theme is religious, philosophical, profound, and I think extremely important for our understanding of life. Is evil part of creation? Did God create evil? Let's reflect together, shall we? And a lot of what we're going to talk about today here is going to come from the works of Allan Kardec, such as from the book Genesis, the book Heaven and Hell, and even the Spirit's book. This question about evil, I think, has haunted, perhaps, humanity for many, many centuries, even millennia. If God is good and just, why does evil exist? Why are there suffering, injustice, violence, and selfishness in the world? These are questions that have troubled philosophers, theologians, and thinkers in general throughout history. In the book Genesis that I mentioned, Allan Kardec dedicates an important reflection on the subject, showing that the problem of good and evil can be properly understood when we grasp three fundamental principles. Number one, the justice of God. Number two, the progress of the Spirit. And number three, free will. We learn through Spiritism that God is not the author of evil. God created the universe with perfect and harmonious laws. These laws are always good. They are meant for our own perfection. So evil arises when spirits, who are created simple and ignorant and are still imperfect, misuse this freedom. In other words, evil, therefore, is the result, we can say, of the misuse of free will, because as spirits we're created simple and ignorant, and as we progress, we will be making mistakes. Just as a tool can be used to build or to destroy, human freedom can produce both good and evil. So this idea that we were created simple and ignorant means that we as spirits, I'm saying we as we all spirits here, we were not created evil, but we were not created ready or perfect either. And this is part of God's plan for us. We are all destined for that purification of the spirit, but this progress happens gradually, very, very slowly. While the spirit has not yet fully developed intelligence or moral sense or this full capacity to love, the spirit will make mistakes, and these mistakes can generate what we call evil. But here's the good news, my dear friends. This evil is temporary. Yes, you heard me correctly. It is temporary. It is not part of the spirit's final nature. In the book Genesis, the author Allan Kardec explains that many of the evils we see on earth originate in the moral imperfections of humanity. Meaning, if we think about the wars, if we think about all the injustices, the exploitation, all the violence, and all of that arises from pride, from selfishness, which can lead to uncontrolled ambition and all these things. So these are not divine creations. These are human creations. As humanity evolves morally, these evil tendencies will diminish, and they diminish as they have already with us. But we're still, of course, far from being final products of our Creator. And here lies another essential point in understanding that evil produces consequences. And of course, I'm talking about the law of cause and effect, because divine laws, in a way, they operate like natural laws. So if someone acts with violence, suffering is created. If someone acts with selfishness, imbalance is generated. these consequences, they return to the spirit so that it may learn and readjust itself. And that is not punishment, as we have talked so many times in this podcast before. It is spiritual education through a law that is good, from a God that is infinitely merciful, good, and all love and perfect in all his qualities. And although it may seem paradoxical, we also learn that evil can lead to learning. It can also indirectly contribute to progress. We see this in Heaven and Hell, in the book Genesis as well, and in the Spirit's book. When we make mistakes, we learn, we mature, we develop awareness. We don't even need to think of a grand evil, just small things rooted in evil. Whenever we make those mistakes, we learn, we mature, we can develop, like I said, this awareness. And a lot of the times, pain is going to be what awakens the spirit to necessary change. Obviously, evil is not desirable. Nobody's saying that. But it shows that God knows how to transform mistakes into opportunities for growth. And we are granted that. We have our free will. We have the law of cause and effect. We are still imperfect, but we're going forward. We're gradually progressing after learning from our own mistakes. Good, therefore, is the destiny of the Spirit, because despite the presence of evil in the world today, we learn through Spiritism something deeply consoling, that good is the final destiny of humanity. Evil diminishes as the Spirit evolves. So the more we progress morally, the more we understand justice, the more empathy we feel, the more we practice love. This is why Jesus taught the path of goodness, not as an imposition, but as a natural law of spiritual evolution. So let's bring this reflection into everyday life, because I think understanding good and evil is not only philosophy, it is also practical transformation. Number one, my dear friends, understanding that evil begins in small attitudes. Often we imagine evil only in great crimes, but we understand with Spiritism that it can also appear in small attitudes. So a harsh word, a convenient lie, destructive criticism, or indifference toward another's suffering. Each small choice builds our spiritual character. Number two, fighting evil within ourselves, because Spiritism does not invite us only to observe evil in the world. No, it invites us to identify it within ourselves. For example, in our wounded pride, in our impatience, in our moments of envy or selfishness, that's when we observe that. And true transformation begins with inner reform. So every time we choose to understand instead of judge, to forgive instead of retaliate, to help instead of ignore, we are replacing, my dear friends, evil with good. Number three, good as a transforming force, because good has a quiet but powerful influence. A gesture of kindness can change someone's day. An act of charity, no matter how small, can relieve suffering. An ethical attitude can inspire others, because, my dear friends, good multiplies. Just as evil spreads, good also spreads. Number four, do not respond to evil with evil. Our dear Master Jesus taught us something revolutionary. Not to overcome evil with evil, but to overcome evil with good. And this does not mean passivity. It means not allowing the evil of others to contaminate our conscience. So, for example, responding calmly to aggression, or maintaining honesty in corrupt environments, acting with dignity even in the face of injustice. This is one of the greatest moral strengths we can develop. And number five, choosing good consciously, because every day is an opportunity for us to exercise our free will for us to choose. And we can always choose between selfishness or generosity, between impatience and understanding, between indifference or solidarity, between indulgence and judgment. Yes, spiritual progress happens decision after decision. According to the Spiritist view, humanity is in a process of moral progress. Evil still exists, but it is not permanent. As spirits evolve, good becomes increasingly dominant. And this happens through education, through spiritual awakening, and through the practice of fraternity, of charity. Every person who chooses good contributes to this transformation. My dear friends, good and evil are not merely philosophical concepts. They are forces that manifest through our daily choices. Evil arises from ignorance and from selfishness. Good arises from awareness and love. And all of us are learning to walk in that direction. So may we each day reduce the evil within ourselves, expand the good in our actions, and contribute to a more just and fraternal world. Because in the divine plan, good always prevails. And here we are at the end of another episode of the Spiritist Companion podcast. As usual, my dear friends, thank you so much for joining me here today, and I hope that this reflection resonated with you. And if it did, please share it with someone else who is also seeking to better understand the spiritual laws of life. We will meet again next week in our next episode, released Monday. Until then, remain firm in goodness, trust in the wisdom of divine laws, and keep walking one step at a time under the light of the gospel. With fraternal love, your Spiritist Companion.